And we're back live in the studios here at Viewpoint each Wednesday morning at 8:15. We're pleased, very pleased this morning to have the Mayor of Lincoln, Keith Snyder, as our guest. We appreciate your time, Mr. Mayor. We mentioned the old former Lincoln Developmental grounds. When we drive by, as all the citizens of Lincoln do on almost a daily basis, and we look over there and we see that thing deteriorating, the boarded up windows, the boards are peeling back, and things are not in a very happy shape over there. And the taxpayers are paying for the government sitting there, and there's ongoing daily expenses. Then some conversations back and forth, and without delving into what might be privy information in sacrosanct, do you feel that we have some possibilities, Keith, that in the potential future, if not the near future, seeing that thing come to fruition to where we be usable?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. It's been something that has been, if not weekly, certainly a monthly topic of discussion at various levels throughout the whole time I've been mayor, because it is such a tremendous asset. There's over 100 acres there. It's beautifully kept. I mean, I do have to give the state credit for that. They keep the grass mowed. They keep it looking nice, and when people drive by, they're just blown away by the beauty of the setting. The frustrating thing for me has been the times when we have entertained developers who have wanted to do certain things with a portion of the grounds. Taking over the whole 100 acres and all the buildings out there is a big chunk for somebody to swallow. But there are folks who have been interested in either the new group homes or certainly the grassy area along State Street there to do some things. And the frustrating thing for me has been when I've contacted the state, and not our state legislators, because they're all very active and supportive. Senator Bomke and Representative Brower in particular are very good about any time we have anything that we need state involvement on regarding LDC, they're there and they're ready to help out in any way that they can. But the bureaucracy, the agencies that actually oversee the grounds, we have given proposals to them and gone months and months and even years and not heard answers. And it's been frustrating for us because we do have some folks that have had some interest, but the state controls the grounds and we need answers back from them. Now, I will say that at the beginning of this month we had a meeting that Senator Bomke facilitated, and we had folks from Central Management Services, which is the state agency that oversees the grounds now, and we also had folks there from Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. And I have entertained those folks here in town, the DCEO folks, and tried to pitch to them the idea that LDC could be an economic engine for this area. That it shouldn't just be viewed as surplus property, but as an asset that could be used to develop any number of different things. So at this meeting with CMS and DCEO, for the first time, CMS told us that if the city had plans for a portion of the grounds, they would be open to entertaining that. So I think that was a good first step, that we don't have to look at it as taking all 100+ acres. If there might be, say, a fourth of it that we'd want to do something with, they would entertain that. So they encouraged us to come up with some plans to try to do some type of further development, even a phased development, if you will. So I think that was a very positive meeting, and I'm certainly grateful to Senator Bomke and Representative Brower for leading that. And they stand ready to do what we'd like to see done there. And there are some possibilities. So I'm encouraged that maybe we can take some steps in 2012 that will get us to where we want to go, which eventually is to have the entire grounds repurposed for some useful activities.
Yeah, we're going to miss Larry Bomke quite a bit. The group homes, it just seems almost borderline on, for want of a better word, stupidity to have invested all that money in those 4 nice homes out there, and there they sit. Comment on that?
Yeah, it's those properties, those facilities have garnered the most interest when folks have come. There have been any number of different types of proposals for what could be done with those, and the state actually, those are the facilities out there that the state likes the most, and a couple of those are being used now by one state agency, and the other one's being used basically as a security, for the security folks out there, it's kind of their home base, and the other one is kind of just used on a temporary basis. But those those were built for the purpose of providing some type of employment opportunities immediately after LDC closed, and for them to sit vacant all this time. And they're beautiful facilities. Yeah. They've got kind of prairie-style architecture, and as nice as they look on the outside, they look that nice on the inside, too.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a plan and then you build 4 big buildings, how in the world could you drop the ball so bad and forget that you'd built them?
I think part of it was, at the time, the advocates that wanted LDC closed because it was an institutional setting still viewed the grounds, I guess if you want to consider it, still viewed the grounds as toxic, quote unquote toxic. Not that there's anything toxic in the grounds, but they viewed that if some type of services would be delivered there, that it still would be an institutional setting. It wouldn't be considered part of the neighborhood, if you will. Now, I would argue the 2 across State Street that sit on that little triangle there by West Kickapoo State and then bordered by the railroad at the back, those are certainly part of the neighborhood there. Yeah. Now, the other 2 are set back off of State Street back into the property, and maybe that argument holds a little bit of water there, but for the Blagojevich administration to spend that $6+ million to build those and then to let those sit vacant all this time is just another state folly. Well, that might be a kind way to put it.
Well, we'll take pictures of them and send them to him wherever they send him, whatever federal joint they send him to. We'll just send him periodically. Let's go for a minute to the hospital site on 8th Street, Mr. Mayor. That was a nice gift from the hospital corporation to the community. There's talk about trying to make that into a park, and that's not the right word we want to use, because, as has been suggested, we have several parks around in our community, pretty nice ones. However conservative they may be as far as a park per se, but that is a lovely. And when I drive by it the other day, now with the grass coming up and all, it's going to be a really nice setting. The mayor, as you know, Judith and Jim and listeners, has convened some people in the community who have an interest in trying to make that be a valuable asset to the city. So where are we with that now?
Sure.
Heath?
Sure. It's this steering committee that I appointed is hard at work in coming up with a concept plan for that site. The steering committee, I guess, is viewing it more as I would call it an outdoor activity site, as a way for folks to engage in some physical activity, to get folks moving, to be a spot where people can come and get healthier and participate in fun activities. And it's not a huge site there, the grounds of the former hospital. If you want to think of it, the downtown parks, Latham and Scully parks, that are perfectly square blocks, one of those would fit in that area there with a little bit left over. So it's not a huge area. We had a public hearing in October where we invited folks to make comments and to fill out forms about the types of activities they would like to see go on there. We then had some follow-up meetings with the steering committee, and we're going to get together now in early January to talk about some final concepts and kind of move things around on paper. But we're talking about things like perhaps having some fitness trails, if you will, not things where you do pull-ups or things like that along the way, but just areas where people could do some loops around through there. We're talking about having some flat, grassy areas where people could play frisbee, toss a football, things like that. One of the things that came up, interestingly enough, was a hill. And, I don't think about it being 50, how old am I? 52? I guess.
Just a kid,
I think so.
I always have to remember.
Just a kid, Jim.
At my age, I don't think about the fun of a hill, but we had some folks who had young kids, and we actually have a young man on our steering committee. I think Tate Morning is 8 years old, I believe.
Yeah.
But we talked about the fun that kids have on a hill. So possibly including a mound there and different ways to get up to the top of the hill, whether it be by rope or by steps or climbing on boulders and things like that. So I think folks are going to be excited when they see some of the concepts that we have laid out for this area. We're planning on having another public meeting to kind of unveil these concepts, probably in late January. And then at some time in February, we would take these concepts to the City Council to be approved, and for the City Council to put their stamp of approval on it. The area across 8th Street, the old hospital parking lot there, it's our plans at this point to sell that off for residential development on that side of the street, and then to use the proceeds from the sale of that to help underwrite some of the costs of developing that outdoor activity site.
Yeah, there was some criticism that we ought to sell the actual hospital site. Well, the hardcore truth is that in this community at this time, there's not much of demand for that type of housing. I just personally don't see it as being a major factor as far as development is concerned. And it's also been said that we already have like Scully and Latham and various parks.
Lucky us.
But the point is, the point is that this is not perceived as that type of, quote, park per se. As you've indicated, trying to come up with some different ways to make active use of that in ways other than just a place to go open up your picnic basket.
I think I view it as, and I hope others do as well, I view it not only as an outdoor activity site, but actually as an economic development attractor, because we want to keep our young people in the community. And I think there's a transition going on in society as a whole from folks kind of making their livelihoods based on what their hands can do to making their livelihoods based on what their minds can do. And we can do that over the internet and things like that, but folks that do make their living using their minds want to find ways to exercise their bodies and to do things that are fun, do things that they can do together perhaps as a family. And I think once this site gets fully developed, I'm hoping that it's going to be an attractant for younger families, for professionals who are looking for things to do, maybe in a smaller community, and maybe have an amenity like this that I'm not aware of anything like this in communities like Springfield or Decatur or Bloomington even. But to maybe have a nice amenity like this where they can, yes, make their livelihood by what their minds can do and the things that they can conceive creatively, but then have a place for them to exercise and to engage in some activities that going to further develop those creative abilities that they have and that they rely on in their professional lives.
A side issue on that matter would be those with physical infirmities might be able to avail themselves of what we finally construct there, getting outside in the air and so forth, as opposed to going to the gym. And so that's just another possibility. I want to shift gears 1 minute.
Sure.
Big shift. Sewage tax delinquencies. That's an ever-present problem. And how are we working with that now?
Sure. We've tried any number of things, and it's been a significant problem. And obviously, there's a number of factors that have played into that. Folks are facing economic challenges, and we know that, and we're not any different in Lincoln than any other part of the country. We have had a significant number also of foreclosures, which has made it difficult for the city to track some of those delinquencies, because the whole process involved in that makes it difficult for us to find A, who's responsible, and then B, for us to ever to get those monies back. So we've tried a couple of things. As an initial step, we referred several of those accounts to collection agencies, and they are working in some of those instances to try to get those dollars returned to the state. Now, you have to pay collection agencies a percentage of the percentage of the dollars that they bring in. We also, though, are going to be starting, and we've agreed to a contract with the water company, with Illinois American Water, to actually shut off the water for properties that are significantly delinquent on sewer bills. So we're working, we've got the agreement in place, and we're kind of working through some of the initial process steps to work with the water company to have that take place as well.
Some of the people were lax when the economy was good, and it's just continued on. So although nobody wants to further tax somebody who's already down,
Right.
and I know you among all people would never want to be unfair to anybody, but there's been a lot of unfairness on the part of the citizenry to the city. I don't know how you look at your piles of bills every month and decide, well, this one we'll probably not worry about. We don't pay this ever. Because you owe that just like you owe the electric company. It's just that it's pretty hard to shut off a sewer where they can shut off your electricity.
Yeah.
That's right, and we don't want to be unfair to anybody. And we know there are situations where perhaps a renter has been paying the rent,
Yes.
fully intending or fully believing that their sewer bill is being taken care of, and the landlord perhaps is not taking care of that.
Sure.
But all that being said, it's also unfair to the people that pay their sewer bills on time. It's unfair to them that...
That was just a little technical difficulty.
Okay.
Okay.
It's called the cat whip.
It's unfair to the people that pay their sewer bills on time, because then they have to underwrite the cost of all those delinquencies.
But people don't think about that.
Right.
That if I don't pay mine, that means you have to pay for you and me both.
Right. Right.
Now, we kind of get silly, don't we?
Another issue, and perhaps Judith Kay and Mr. Station Producer, Manager, Engineer, an issue that is maybe it's only personal. I don't know. We have an agreement with Comcast, and part of that agreement, as I best understand it, is that there's a certain amount of public domain coverage that they should afford the city of Lincoln. How is that working?
Well, the agreement that we have...
Tell me I'm out of bounds if you want to.
No. I've certainly had my own issues with Comcast as mayor, and continue to have those issues and try to hold them accountable for the franchise agreement they have with the city. The agreement does talk about them providing a public access channel, if you will.
Okay.
So we've continued to raise that issue with them. They now provide Channel 5, which obviously is it's not exactly a public access channel.
It's
but
a repetitive channel.
It's a channel where
repeat.
It's a local origination channel. But we've been talking with Comcast about providing an additional channel for local services. And we have involved in that discussion Lincoln College. And I'm hopeful that the Comcast Lincoln College discussions are driving towards a good conclusion. We'll see if that's true with Comcast involved. But I think the idea, at least that I had involving Lincoln College, would be that there would be a channel that would provide educational as well as governmental access. So if not only Lincoln College, but if the high school or any other educational setting wanted to put something on the air, this would be a channel where they could do that. Possibly even working with Lincoln College, on the programs that they might have. If we wanted to do something as a city beyond just broadcasting our voting meetings every other Monday, that would be a channel where that could happen. So those discussions are continuing. I'm hopeful that sometime early next year we'll have a positive conclusion to that, but I'm not holding my breath.
I would think your viewers would love to, again, Judith Kay, a personal observation, but this seems to me so much repetitiveness on Channel 5 now that, how many times can you look at the high school prom coming out?
I saw you at the prom the other night on Channel 5.
Oh, really?
All right, get off that soapbox, Billy.
That would have been in black and white.
So much you beat the dead cow. Before we call it up, do you have any comments that you'd like to make to the listeners out there regards we're coming up to 2012. My goodness, it's almost here.
Tell us your fondest hope.
Yeah.
Oh, well, sure. I think we're going to have a lot of great things happen in 2012. I'm looking forward to some good news about downtown Lincoln. I would love to see us do some planning and possibly some renovations around downtown in terms of the streetscape look and things like that. We're going to be not only working towards getting a city administrator hired for the city. But another thing we're going to be working at a city level are our police and fire space needs. Our fire department now operates in what we think is the oldest operating firehouse in the state of Illinois. They have space needs. Our police department works in really cramped quarters at the safety complex. So we've got an architect that we're talking to develop some space needs and maybe some concepts on some new space there. Our 3rd Street property, where the city garage is located, the ground underneath it is contaminated, which is it's not a good thing. But
the old mines?
Yes, but the positive thing is that the utilities that were the cause of that contamination are going to pay to get that all cleaned up.
Well, thank you,
so
Brad.
we're dealing with them to work through that process. Hopefully, we also have some money in the budget for some type of a city cleanup. It may not be able to be the same type of thing that we had years ago when John Gazzardo was mayor and as extensive as that, but we do have some dollars set aside. We're going to be talking to some waste disposal companies about what they might be able to do. So I think we've got a lot of good things that could happen. We've had more discussions with developers in recent months than we've had my whole tenure as mayor, so I think economically maybe some things are going to start happening for us as well. So
Good
I feel pretty
news.
positive about 2012.
Good
Well, we
news.
appreciate very much you're taking your time with us this morning, Mr. Mayor. You know, I don't think $1,000 is too much. Do you? $1,000 a month?
Nah,
That's
it's a bargain at twice the price.
that's disgraceful. We appreciate your time, Keith, very much.
Thanks for having me.
We always try to close Viewpoint with some quote or something that has pertains to either what's in the news or the subject matter of the morning. We've had some unusual characters in the past month step off the island of the front pages of the sports pages. Some of just pretty disgraceful things. Here's one that says, sports do not build character, they reveal it. Thank you for Viewpoint.